Hustle. We are gonna start hustle. That means yes. We're gonna start on the back of what looks like page 4. So this should be done, but I wanted to go over it for review today. We're moving on. You're kind of sleeping. You might want to get this packet out and get going. Guys, when you're here, you should be ready. Aiden, did you give me this to hold on to for you? I'm trying to think where I would have put it. Probably in the 5th hour. Today, at the end of the hour, Aiden, I'm going to put it right back here. In this basket, because I won't be here tomorrow and you'll be out of luck. Mr. Doherty. All right. Guys, we're just solving one-step equations here, right? So to undo adding 12, what do I need to do? Subtract 12. Make sure you're showing your work. Subtracting 12 from both sides. What's 7 minus 12? Negative 5. Right now, it's a greater than sign, but in order to graph it, it's easier for me to list my variable first. So I have a k and a negative 5. In this, the monster is eating the negative 5, so it still needs to do that, right? So I might start at like negative 7 or negative 8. All right, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Those are all negative numbers, right? Now, opened or closed at negative 5. Well done. And to the right or the left? It's pointing to the left. Very good. So if you have missed that, remember, think about your sign, right? That's your sign. Turn it into an arrow. That only works when our variable is listed first, right? Get it quickly. Why did you waste all that time walking across the room? Let's go. Hustle. All right. How do I get m by itself here? Excellent. So instead, to make this negative 16 a 0, I'm going to take the opposite of it. So I'm going to add 16 to both sides. So negative 5 plus 16 is 11. Right? So I do want to rewrite it. I have an m and an 11, and my monster is eating the m. So I want my monster to continue to eat the m. So maybe I'll start at like 7 or 8, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Remember, just subtract 3 from that. Opened or closed at 11? Closed, because it could equal 11, right? And our arrow is going to the right. Remember, if you're struggling, once it's in this form, draw your inequality symbol and then make it an arrow. Yeah.
Does it matter where the numbers go?
Well, yeah. What do you mean?
So, like, if you were to go from like 10 and you count that, or add it up,
Add it.
instead of doing like 8, or doing like 11, 10, 9, 8, 10, like.
It cannot go in that direction, no, because all of our positives get bigger to the right and all of our negatives get, it has to actually look like a number line.
Oh.
Otherwise, it won't be in order like a number line is. All right, now how do I undo dividing by 6? Excellent. If I multiply both sides by 6, 6 times negative 3 is negative 18. Bring down your sign and V. Ugh, I gotta do it again. So I'm rewriting my letter and my number. Here my monster's eating V. So here my monster also has to eat V. So I'm going to subtract 3 from negative 18. That gives me like negative 21, negative 20, negative 19, negative 18, negative 17, negative 16, negative 15. Opened or closed at negative 18? Open. and to the
Right.
right. Good. V is greater than negative 18. All right, this one throws in that twist, right? This time to figure out what C is, to undo multiplying by negative 6, I'm going to divide by negative 6. So negative 54 divided by negative 6 is a positive 9. What happens when I divide or multiply by a negative? What happens with our inequalities? I've got to flip my inequality symbol. So my inequality symbol flips here. Yes, we're going to change it to graph it. So I have a C and a 9, and it's eating the 9. So if I say 9 minus 3 is 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Opened or closed at the 9? Closed, because it could be equal to 9. And to the right or the left? Left, careful here. Right? If you have it with your variable term first, rewrite your sign symbol if you need to, and turn it into an arrow so you know which way it goes. All right, so that's good review from yesterday. You should be through page 4. If you're not, make sure you're going back to finish those. We're adding 2 steps. So these are following the same steps as solving 2-step equations, but don't forget, when you multiply or divide by a negative number, we have to flip the inequality symbol, okay? So remember our 2 steps. Our first step is to add or subtract. This gets rid of constant on variable side. Remember, we're always trying to get rid of the stuff that is on the variable side. And our second step in 2-step equations no Nick, no Elijah. All right, so our next step is to multiply or divide. And this gets rid of the coefficient, right? It turns it into 1. That's what we want. We want 1n or 1m or 1y, right? So we have to add or subtract. We're trying to get rid of this 3, so we're going to subtract 3 from both sides. I have 3n. I'm bringing down my greater than or equal to symbol, and then I have a 27. Now I'm dividing both sides by the coefficient, which is 3, to get 1n. So n has to be greater than or equal to 9. 9 minus 3 is 6, so I'm starting at 6 here. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Opened or closed at the 9? Closed, because it could be equal to it. And to the right. Very good. All right, so we're just going to continue on in that process. First, we have to get rid of the constant on the variable side. So we're taking the opposite. Very good. Once we have added 3, we have 20 is less than or equal to negative 2m. Not just 2, though. We got to divide by a negative 2. Do we need to turn the lights on?
No, this is like foggy, like
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like frizzy, actually. better word like little, yeah.
Frizzy. So negative 10 is less than, oh, what did I have to do? I got to change my sign because I divided by a negative. So it's actually going to be greater than or equal to m, which means I've got to rewrite it with an m and a negative 10. It is eating the negative 10. So negative 10 minus 3 is negative 13, negative 12, negative 10, negative 9. Oh my gosh, I skipped 11, negative 10, negative 9, negative 8, negative 7. So closed at negative 10, right? And to the left. I think we all have that graphing part down, I hope. All right, looking on the variable side, we're adding or subtracting to get rid of this constant. So we're going to take the opposite of it from both sides. I'm adding 5 to both sides in number 3. Negative 19 plus 5 is negative 14. It's a little less negative. And then I have a negative 2y. When I divide both sides by negative 2, I have to remember when I divide or multiply by a negative number that I'm flipping my sign. So I end up with 7 is greater than y. Or if I put it with my variable first, I want my monster to eat the 7. So I could think of it as 7 is less than, I'm sorry, y is less than 7. So 7 minus 3 is 4, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Open, because it doesn't say that it could be equal to, and to the left. All right, so I would start by getting rid of my constant. I'm going to subtract 7 from both sides. Negative 8x is less than 8. When I divide by a negative, though, in this next step, I have to flip my sign in the other direction. So x is going to be greater than negative 1. Negative 1 minus 3 is negative 4. Negative 3, negative 2, negative 1, 0, 1, 2. So at negative 1, I have an open circle because it doesn't say that it could be equal to it, and my arrow is pointing to the right. These next two look a little bit different. We're still going to try and get rid of our constant first on number 5. Number 6 does look different than that, though. So I'm going to subtract 6 from both sides. So I have c over negative 5. What does that fraction bar mean? To divide. That means division. So we'll think about that as soon as we finish this step. 2 minus 6 is negative 4. To undo dividing by negative 5, I have to multiply both sides by negative 5. That gives me negative 5 divided by negative 5, which is 1. So I have c here. When I multiply or divide with inequalities by a negative, I have to flip my sign. Probably going to be the biggest error if you're going too fast and forget to flip it, right? Negative 4 times negative 5 is 20. 20 minus 3 is 17, so I'm saying 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23 here. Open at 20 and to the right. Sorry. All right, this one's weird. The first thing that's being done to A is we're adding 1 to it. The second thing that's being done to it is we're dividing by 4. So we have to undo that division first. We gotta work our way backwards. So to get rid of that 4, we're gonna multiply both sides by 4. That cancels this out, right? That leaves us with a plus 1 is less than or equal to 16, right? 4 times 4. And now this is definitely something you can do. So if I subtract 1 from both sides, I have a is less than or equal to 15. 15 minus 3 is 12. So 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Closed at the 15 then, and to the left. All right, one more page, and then we can do a little bit of your practice together if you'd like. The reason this is 2-step is because after we get rid of this -2, adding 2 to both sides, we're not left with y, but with a negative y. So I could divide both sides by -1, or I could multiply both sides by -1. I don't.
How is -13 plus 2 so negative?
I don't know. Sorry. I'm glad you're paying attention though. I was making all sorts of mistakes this morning in second hour and nobody was paying any attention to them. And I was like, guys, I'm losing my mind and you're not helping.
I was so confused. I was like, am I stupid or-
All right, so this becomes a positive y. That's what we want, right? But when we multiply by a negative, I've got to flip my sign. So -11 times -1 is +11. So 11 minus 3 is 8. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So opened or closed at 11. To the left. All right, let's get rid of our constant here. So I would add 2. So 8 is less than x divided by 2. So I would undo that division by multiplying both sides by 2. 16 is less than x. So I know I have an x and a 16. The monster's eating the x. So 16 minus 3 is 13, 14, 18, 19. Opened or closed at 16. Open. And to the, well done. That's the easiest part, right? I hope at this point. So we got to get rid of our constant on the side of the variable. We're going to take the opposite of it. So we're going to subtract 5 because we want that to be 0. -8 is greater than 2k. Divide by the coefficient. -4 is greater than k, or k and -4 with the -4 being eaten. So k is less than -4. So -7, right? -4 minus 3 is -7, -6, -5, -4. Opened or closed at -4? Open and to the left. Well done. So I'm gonna get rid of my constant here. Oh, this one's tricky. We're gonna have to multiply by a reciprocal. All right. So -12 on the left is greater than -3/4 c. So to make this 1, remember I have to multiply fractions by its reciprocal to make it 1. So I'm actually going to multiply both sides by what? Anybody know? What's the reciprocal of 3/4? 4/3. Well done. So I'm going to multiply by negative 4/3 so that I get a positive 1. This one's probably the trickiest one you have. Remember, this means I'm dividing by 3. So 12 divided by 3 is what? 4 times what's on top? What's 4 times 4? So 16, right? Positive. Negative times a negative is positive. Oh, I just multiplied by a negative though, so I'm flipping my sign. And these cancel out. Negative times a negative is positive. 3 divided by 3 is 1. 4 divided by 4 is 1. That's why we multiplied by the reciprocal, okay? So here I have a C and a 16. My monster is eating the C. 16 minus 3 is 13. It's a big monster. 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. You'll be 19 in no time at all. All right, 16. Open or close there. And to the right. It says, solve each inequality, then check each number that is a solution. All right, let's do it. So I'm going to get rid of this -2 by taking the opposite of it from both sides. So because we've been practicing 1-step and 2-step equations with this, perhaps by the time we're done with this, it would be a great time to retake your solving equations quiz as well, because this is so much more review, right? So here we have 4m is less than or equal to 30 plus 2 is 32. So I'm dividing by 4. Good, the coefficient, because we want 1m. M is less than or equal to 8. All right, is 6 less than or equal to 8? Yes. Is 7 less than or equal to 8? Is 8 less than or equal to 8? How about 9? 10? All right, that's it. See how easy that was? All right, let's get rid of this 4 that's on the side of the variable. So we actually have to subtract it from both sides. Sorry, got a tickle. So you've got -4n is less than or equal to 12. So be careful here, because when we divide by a -4, anytime we divide or multiply by a negative, we've got to flip our signs. So this gives us 1n, or just n. 12 divided by -4, though, is -3. All right, so is -6 greater than or equal to -3? No. Guys, if you draw -3 here, -4, -5, -6, right? -2, -1, 0. Think about this. It's closed here and it's pointing to the right. So does -6 work? Does -5? Does -4? Does -3? Yes. And does -2? Yes. So be careful with those. Even though the number 6, its absolute value, is bigger than 3, when it's negative, it is less than. All right. So we're solving for this a here. So on the side of the variable, we've got to get rid of that -2. So I'm going to add 2 to both sides. 10 is less than -2a. I see a negative. When I divide both sides by -2, I have to be sure to flip the sign. So 10 divided by -2 is -5. And here is an A. It still might be easier to think about it this way. It's eating the 5, so A is less than -5. Is -8 less than -5? Yes. Is -7 less than -5? Yes. -6. Is -5 less than -5? No. Is -4 less than -5? No. All right. Last one here. So if I subtract 4 to get rid of that constant, I have r divided by 2 is greater than or equal to a -5. So if I'm multiplying both sides by 2, r is greater than or equal to -10. Is -11 greater than or equal to -10? No. Is -10 greater than or equal to -10? Yes. -9, -8, -7. If you're getting stuck on these, draw a picture like we did here, right? All right, so you have lots of two-step to be practicing. I am totally willing to continue going over some of these with you so you don't have to do so many by yourselves. Let's do the weird ones. Let's do H here. H makes us have to multiply both sides by 7. So that leads us with x plus 8 is less than 21.
I don't understand the question. What did the wall say the adjacent wall?
Adjacent wall.
Makes a lot more sense.
So I would subtract 8. These are going to be kind of squished in here. I might recommend that you grab an extra piece of paper.
And then just staple it.
Yeah, or just whatever you want to do is fine. So 21 minus 8 is 13, I think. So this answer is x is less than 13. So one of the answers over here is also going to be x is less than 13. So I'm not saying it is, but if 2 had the same answer, wherever 2 was down here, you would put the letter H. I'm not saying it does. I'm just saying if it did, that's what you would do. That's how you would solve the riddle. So you're going to do everything in this set and then everything over here. One of these numbers is going to match a letter. And then under that number down here, you're going to put that letter. You'll see once you get them all figured out.
It's 8, so when down here at the bottom it'd be 13, put 8. No. So you see 8 over there.
Okay, hold on. Let's just do this set together real quick. So subtract 7 from both sides here. So I have 3x is greater than or equal to -48. So when I divide by 3, x is greater than or equal to, what is that, 16? -16? Here I would add 9 to both sides, giving me x divided by 2 is greater than 2. Multiply both sides by 2. X is greater than 4. Subtract 19 from both sides. I know, because I want you to see how this plays in here so that you won't have so much to do on your own. So here, -5x is less than -45. Remember when you divide by a -5 though, that your sign switches. So this is going to be x is greater than 9. Here I would add 17. So negative x is less than or equal to 2. But when I take the opposite, I'm left with x. I've got to flip my sign because I'm dividing or multiplying by -1 to get a -1, or a +1 rather. And this is going to be -2. All right, so here I would get rid of the 10. And I would have -2x is greater than or equal to 14. When I divide both sides by -2, my sign gets flipped to less than or equal than. And I have an x over here and a -7 here. So in set 1, I'm going to have matching answers to those letters. So right away, you can see this first one. If I were to add 5 to both sides, 6x is greater than 24. When I divide both sides by 6, x is greater than 4. So here, number 9 matches with letter T. Do you see that? The answers? So I'm going to, in the 9 slot down at the bottom, write the letter T. Okay? And that's how you'll keep proceeding. So if you wanted to finish that set off real quick, we would subtract 11 from both sides here. So -4x is greater than or equal to 28. But when I divide by a -4, remember my sign has to switch to a less than or equal than sign. And I have a -7 here. So number 17, the answer matches letter E. So under 17, I'm going to write the letter E. Okay? See how number 9, the answer, matched with letter T?
Yeah.
And here, number 17 matches with letter E. That's how we know what letters to put down in the numbers below. So we can finish these off if you'd like. If I'd subtracted 13 from both sides here, 1/2 x is really just like x over 2, right? When we multiply by the reciprocal anyways. This is greater than or equal to -1. So if I multiply both sides by 2, I have x is greater than or equal to -2, which looks just like letter O. So down on the 6, I'm going to write the letter O. Get rid of your 5 by subtracting it from both sides. So I have -3x is greater than -39. But when I divide by a negative, remember my sign has to switch. So I have x is less than 13. 39 divided by 3. And, right, we should have them match up. It's a good way to self-check, because if you don't get a matching one on the other side, you did something wrong, okay? So H and 11 match. So under 11, I'm putting the letter H. I don't know. Here, I would subtract 2 from both sides. So -x is less than -9. But when I divide or multiply by -1, I have to flip my sign. Positive x is greater than +9. This is another one that's backwards. Oh, wait, let's find the match. 2 is like letter E. So E is going here in the 2 spot. And then here I would multiply both sides by -2. It is definitely fuzzy right now. Sorry, I don't know what's going on. All right, so here, oh man, I'm multiplying by a negative from the start. So I have x minus 4, right, is, I gotta flip it, greater than or equal to negative 20. So now if I add 4 to both sides, x is actually greater than or equal to negative 16. And surprise, surprise, it matches the last pair. 15 and R are the same. So in 15, I'm going to put R. All right, so be careful, especially when you're multiplying or dividing by negatives. You've got set 2 and set 3 to do. Tomorrow with the sub, I was gonna say slub, you are going to be completing more practice, just like we did notes for here on pages 8 and 9. So I know there's not a ton of room for work, but if you kind of work it like we did and don't write the answer twice, you'll probably be fine with space. All right.